The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu. We've got a great show for you. A lot to talk about, and trust me, no one's going to be deflated after this half hour. Greg Buchanan, how are you?
You just had to bring in Deflate, didn't you?
Yeah, it's going to be the topic of choice, my friend, especially what happened last week. How are you?
It was interesting. Not too bad, not too bad.
Excellent. I'm pleased to be joined by, of course, the head coach for the men's volleyball team at Lakeland College, Taylor Dyer. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, kind of segued into that a little bit, or kind of foreshadowed it, I should say, and we'll talk about Deflate-gate. Now there's a lot more talk recently about perhaps a certain attendant, a locker room attendant, that took the balls and then decided to take them into a certain room and maybe deflate them. Who knows? But over the last week, particularly the weekend, you had both Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have press conferences. In those press conferences, they were kind of making a mockery a little bit, joking around about the whole situation. Then you had a half-hour, 22-minute press conference, that is, by Bill Belichick, talking about how he investigated the balls, how he's doing his own little forensic research on this, and how it works. And it's kind of funny because the following day on ESPN, they had, of course, Bill Nye talk about that's a load of crap. So when you look at what's going on here, you could say it's pseudoscience, whatever. But what do you make of the whole situation right now, and what do you suggest that this is by the Patriots and Bill Belichick? Posturing, what?
I think it's posturing. I think Bill Belichick thinks he can make light of the situation, just pass it off as if it's a joke. Basically, that's what his whole press conference was. It was just making a mockery or laughing about the whole situation. How he kept a straight face the whole time is beyond me. So I think he's trying to cover it up a little bit by making it seem like it's just one big joke. Where the fact of the matter is that it's cheating. So whether or not it had any impact in the game, probably not at all. But it was still cheating, and I think they're just trying to push it off to the side and not make it a factor.
Didn't Belichick quote My Cousin Vinny movie in that? Like,
Yeah,
when's the last time in a sports news conference you heard a quote from My Cousin Vinny movie? Like, that's remarkable. And it's amazing that the American media has blown this out of proportion. Who would have thought that? National news is leading, not even sports. We're talking national news, everything that's happening around the world, and what is the number one story? Deflate-gate, and it's just ridiculous. The bottom line through all this is, how did the officials not know? When Brady says he didn't know, I want to take the guy's word for it, but it's pretty hard. There's something funny going on there, and it was the first pick in that game when the Colts picked it off, and they realized these balls don't feel right. And then they investigated, and all New England's balls were the same. So I don't think this story's going to die, unfortunately. And with Spygate with the Patriots, and Belichick was asked about that on the weekend as well. So I got a feeling that you're going to hear more of it this week leading up to the game on Sunday, and then you're probably going to hear more of it after the game, regardless of the Patriots win or not.
I'm going to love this for the fact, and if you're the NFL, you want to keep this. For me, if I was in that position, and Roger Goodell, I would keep this going as long as possible because it has so many people talking that you are going to be seeing a huge spike in ratings going into the Super Bowl come Sunday, and it's going to be a big one.
So they're going to have a camera on the balls, probably?
They might have to have maybe they'll have to have a ball cam. You never know. But I want to get to this, guys. Even though that a conclusion hasn't been drawn up just yet, and the league is still investigating, will they do it just before the Super Bowl on the eve sometime this week? Will they come to a conclusion?
I don't think they will. There's no chance they're going to risk anything coming up to the Super Bowl. I think it'll come to light after the Super Bowl is over. I don't think they can chance whether it's a good publicity, bad, or it brings in ratings. I think the way it's going right now, they just need to stick with it, and then afterwards, I think is when you're going to see the verdict.
Yeah, I don't think they want to take anything away from Sunday's game. I think today was media day. Likely it was asked a few times. But after this Sunday, maybe in a few weeks' time, they'll come out with some kind of results from their investigation. Since we know the NFL is so good at investigating things, that'll be interesting.
We're going to move on to the Super Bowl 49 that's going to be coming up. You have the Seahawks and Patriots. Of course, today it was also media day, so a lot of the questions going into it were of Ron Gronkowski reading literary novels about himself as well as Marshawn Lynch telling the media, I'm here so I don't get sued by the NFL. Outside of that, guys, let's talk about the field and play. You look at the defense from Seattle. You even look at the defense for New England, which is vastly improved. You look at Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman on that end. You look at the quarterbacks with Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. There's a lot of great factors here in the game itself. Who would you pick as the winner come Sunday?
Oh, you go first.
I like New England. I do like Seattle's defense. I think they can turn a game around in itself. But Tom Brady and Belichick have been there so many times, and you can argue Tom Brady might be one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best of all time. So I like their chances. I think it's going to be a close game, and I'm hoping for a really tight contest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot closer than last year. Let's just hope it is. But you know what? As bad as Seattle played for 3 quarters and a little bit against Green Bay, I'm still picking them to win. And just because their defense is so solid, I know they're going to have to really come to play to shut down Brady. Questions are, was Seattle's Seahawks offense that bad, or did Green Bay play that well against them for 3 quarters? That's probably the telling blow. But I still say Seattle's going to win it, and it's going to be back-to-back.
The only way I'd like to see Seattle win it is if Marshawn Lynch gets the MVP, because you can imagine how his "I'm going to Disney World" commercial is going to be. It will be epic, considering he doesn't talk to the media very much. All right, very quickly, we'll move on to the CFL and talk about the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They made a surprising move. A lot of people were shocked when this happened on Saturday. Even to the Riders themselves, it wasn't something that they developed. It was just an instant call from both the Argos and instant reply from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Ricky Foley, who's been with the team for 2 seasons, helped the Riders win a Grey Cup in 2013, is going back to Toronto. In exchange, linebacker Shea Emery is going to Saskatchewan. How do you guys describe this deal? Who wins, who loses, or if anybody wins or loses?
I like it on both sides. I mean, it hurts losing Foley. I think he loved being in Saskatchewan. I love the team. But you know what? They're both great Canadian players. Emery led Toronto in tackles last year. So, I mean, you're getting a good linebacker position that the Riders needed. But you do lose a great player in Foley, and he loved being in Saskatchewan. So those are 2 things that are tough to swallow.
Yeah, and it's tough for Riders fans to say goodbye to him because he was so good in the community. He did a lot of things away from the field, and he loves being in Saskatchewan. And he just signed a new contract. So, and it really surprised a lot of people when the deal was done. But if you look at the Riders and you look at their depth chart, they're pretty deep on the defensive line, even with Ricky Foley there. And then they have suspects at linebacker. So you look at that, and they add a premier linebacker in that league, and he's Canadian. He's going to fit the bill for what they need in Saskatchewan, and Ricky's going to do the exact same thing in Toronto, where he comes home to Toronto. He's a good veteran presence. He's got Grey Cup championships under his belt, including one when he was with the Argos. So I think it's a great trade for both, and I think the Riders, as tough it is to say goodbye to Ricky Foley, who was a good guy, you needed a linebacker, and you had to pay the price for it.
And one of the nicest thing about both guys, they're also in their prime. Shea Emery's a little bit younger. He's 28. He'll be 29 during the season. But you talk about that linebacker position, that is huge because the Riders were one of the worst teams when it came to the run game, and he's one of the best run stoppers in the middle, so that's going to be a benefit for them. All right, guys, we're going to take a timeout. When we return, we're going to have more Gloves Are Off and talk about the National Hockey League, World Cup, and more. Come here.